Great Scott.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a fabulous episode of Great Scott. I'm Scotty V. Thanks for watching. This very special episode brings me back to the video because of Superman, of course. If you've seen it, you know how great it is. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll talk a little bit about it without spoiling some things, and then I'll talk about some spoilers later on. I'll let you know when that's going to start. For me, this was the most joyous, happy, optimistic, uplifting, inspirational time I have had at the movies in years and years and years and years. Now, if you've watched my videos in the past, you know that I enjoyed Man of Steel, I enjoyed Batman v Superman, I enjoyed the Zack Snyder version of Justice League when we finally got it years later. And like a lot of people out there, I would have loved to see that universe continue. I think Henry Cavill was a great Superman. The unfortunate thing, and a lot of people have said it more than I have, I think, because I was just trying to enjoy the Superman that we had, that Cavill just wasn't given a great Superman to portray. We had a lot of depressed thoughts. We had a lot of downtrodden looks. We had a lot of sort of negative, as opposed to hopeful feelings associated with the film and with those films. It wasn't just the scale of the colors of the movie that was dark. It was also the soul of the characters that were much darker. There were times, there were things, and there were great heroic things to see. There was great action. At the time, I had said I think it was the best Superman we'd seen, in the sense that we could never have seen it with that kind of action, with those kind of effects, with, you know, seeing Superman do the things that Superman can do just wasn't that effective previously, before those movies came out, even though everyone loves the Donner films and Christopher Reeve was a fantastic Superman and Clark Kent and all that. They were a little cheesy. The effects were okay, but they couldn't do a lot. There wasn't a lot with supervillains. It was basically Lex and then the Kryptonian villains that kind of were a one-trick sort of thing. They didn't have a lot that they could, you know, we don't want to see toppling buildings all the time, but we couldn't have buildings toppling. We couldn't have spaceships flying around. We couldn't have a dog with a cape. Those kinds of things, for two reasons. The effect capabilities, I don't think, were up to par for that kind of thing, but also I think that they thought that audiences then weren't ready for the kind of stuff that they can do now. And now, after the Marvel Universe, so we have that universe, which we've all loved up to this point too, to thank for where we're at this point, where now James Gunn can come in, and if you've watched any of the trailers, you see that it's a fully realized fantasy, comic book, science fiction world. We go right in, and we're right in the action. We're right in Metropolis with comic book villains, comic book technology, comic book dialogue, comic book action, and comic book heroes. Of course, we have Guy Gardner, we have Hawk Girl, we have Mr. Terrific, we have Crypto, and we have Superman. And for my money, David Corenswet is charismatic. He's hopeful. He's optimistic. He carries himself with the weight of Superman. You see it as soon as he's on screen. From the moment that they outline the S, from before that, it's an incredible, incredible rendition of Superman. You'll hear people say, he yells at Lois. You've seen that in the trailers. He's not yelling at Lois. He's emphatic about what he believes in and what he was doing while being interviewed by Lois and being questioned by her, because she's on the other side of that. As a reporter, not even necessarily that she wouldn't agree with him or that she doesn't agree with him, but that what if what he did could have been done a different way, or what if he shouldn't have done what he did. And he gets passionate about it, as he should, because people were going to die. You've seen that in the trailers as well. So nothing that I'm saying here isn't things that you have seen, but just to refute some of what people have said in the context of the scene and in the context of the story and in the context of that interview with Lois, it makes perfect sense, and he's not yelling like a violent partner or something like that. These are people that are out there trying to say negative things that either haven't seen the movie or don't plan to, and just want to say some negative things. A lot of that online we've seen for decades, but it comes from a lot of fandoms of comic books, a lot of Star Wars type fans. If they don't like something, or they don't think they're going to like something, or they don't want something different than what they're used to, they sort of detract. There's these whole communities that do that kind of thing. But there's no truth to it. He is the most Superman that I have ever seen on screen. A lot of people might say, well, more than Christopher Reeve? Different time, different Superman, different situation, but this is Superman as much as Christopher Reeve was, and in the most optimistic way. You just feel happy. I smiled through the whole film. I cried at times, not bawling, but I had tears in my eyes. I had a tear or two on my cheek, just from the amount of passion and spirit and just optimistic hopefulness that they put into the movie. And I think that if you haven't seen it, you should definitely see it. Even if you thought maybe the underwear looked weird, or maybe if you thought that the costume looked too bulky, or maybe if you are a big fan of the Man of Steel situation and that Snyder universe, which I also was for different reasons. Move on from it if you can, because this is a movie that is not to be missed for fans of Superman, for fans of comic books, for fans of dogs, for fans of romance, for fans of action, for fans of fantasy. It's all there. Now, if you're going to go into a movie and you can't accept that there are otherworldly things in it, that there are fantastic things in it that don't exist in our world and aren't always explained 100% because they just are, you might have an issue with that. But if you know comics, which I think a lot of people who might be seeing this and a lot of people on the homepage do, a lot of people on Superman pages, a lot of people on comic book pages, and a lot of people that might be interested in this movie, shouldn't have a problem with the idea that we get right into it as the movie starts. And I want to now talk about a few things that I love about this movie. The fact that Superman wants to save everyone, wants to help everyone, and it's above and beyond anything else he wants. It's above his own safety, it's above any feelings for himself, and it's even if he's injured at times in the movie, he immediately goes to, oh no, but there's this, or there's that, or there are these people where we have to save them. It's Superman up and down in every way that you can think of it. You just feel like some of his speeches in the movie feel like Superman. It's authentic, it's heartfelt, it's enthusiastic, and it's just fantastic to see. A couple of things that might bother people. Spoiler again, if you haven't watched it yet. The Kryptonian origin. We learn later in the movie, and it's kind of a big deal, that the message that was sent with Superman started out with thoughts of love and thoughts of greatness and thoughts of happiness and thoughts of we're saving you because you mean more to us than anything. And then the message was damaged, and Lex and his friends either decode the message and figure it out, or somehow fake it or make their own or interpret it in a wrong way, which I'm hoping. But at movie's end, it looks as though Jor-El and Lara wanted him to rule, not necessarily kill everyone, not destroy the Earth, but kill anyone who gets in his way and propagate the Kryptonian species on Earth by taking as many mates as possible. Very extreme, but it's also not the first time that we've heard this. If you're watching the My Adventures with Superman cartoon, they kind of did it there. And I haven't been with the comics for a while now, so that could be the origin in the comics right now that we're seeing. And what happens in comics, we all know. They introduce something for a while, they stick with it for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or 8 years, some amount of time, and then they revamp it. Oh, the mystery that will change Superman forever on the front of a comic book, and you find out Jor-El was a bad guy. And then later on, you find out he really wasn't. It was Brainiac who made it seem like it was. Or they revamp it and they relaunch it again, and it's something else. So this could be just what DC is going with right now. I don't necessarily think that Gunn came up with this idea. I think that it's been around for a bit. It's not my favorite way to present it, and that was the one thing that sort of detracted from my enjoyment of the film. I didn't love hearing that, and I expected by movie's end that we would find out that it was faked, but they don't show us that. Now, I've talked to people who have said it would be a hard sell if they revamped it later on, and it would only be because people complained and that they changed it, but that they hadn't intended it to be this way. I don't know that that's entirely true. Now, it could very well stay this way, and it could be what they want, but I also think that Lex is a master manipulator. He has the engineer who can create anything and can connect with all these computers, and did so. And at one point when she's connected to the computers in the fortress, she says, I have it. And he looks at her and sort of smirks. And that's before he knows anything about what she has found. And then they cut the scene and we go to something else. And the next time we hear about that, we're being shown it on the news, that Superman is here to conquer us all. So there is a space there for them to possibly say that it was doctored or that it was fixed or that the experts were incorrect. The argument is that even Mr. Terrific says, I know these guys, Clark, and they wouldn't say that it was authentic unless they knew for sure that it was authentic. And in my mind, I think he's saying these guys as a general. When you say they, he's saying they. I know these types. I know these technology guys. I know these linguist experts, and they wouldn't make a comment like that unless they knew for sure. But Lex can have any amount of people in his pocket, and as we see in the pocket universe, he can also capture your family, your babies, your wife, your daughter, your sister, and make you respond the way he wants you to. Also, if he created the video, he could have given it to them, and they could say, oh yeah, it's authentic because it's connected to whatever, and he has the engineer who seemingly can do that kind of thing. So I don't think it's out of the question that as we move on in this universe, we could see that this was manipulated in some way to make people think. Because all through the movie, Lois keeps saying, Lex did everything he could to discredit Superman. Lex has spent all these years trying to make Superman look bad. Lex is trying to do, and he says it himself. I started the conflict with Baravia and Jarhanpur because I wanted to destroy you, not because I cared about the land. That's part of it, and it would be a nice little bonus, he says, but I wanted to destroy you. So I started this entire thing, and I set this whole thing up. And I also spent 3 years mapping your moves and coming up with all kinds of fight choreography for my Ultraman, who I can easily defeat you with. That's the other thing I hear people, detractors, saying, this is Superman? He gets beat up through the entire movie. He loses again and again and again. He's bloody. He's beaten. Everyone beats him. Not true. Ultraman, essentially himself, who Lex says it was easy to clone him because I just had to comb all your battle sites and find a lock of your hair. And once I did that, I was able to clone you. And unfortunately, even though he's stronger than you, he might even be dumber than you because the cloning process was not perfect. Almost sounds like a Bizarro type of thing, but of course in the comic book world, sometimes Bizarro's from the Bizarro world, and there are all kinds of Bizarros there. But they say Ultraman, and Ultraman is actually the dark Superman from another universe, another version of Superman. And I'm not really sure why they didn't do that, because when they introduced the Pocket Universe and the idea that he ripped open a rift in dimensions, Lex, it seems like that was the way they were going to go, and I could see it sort of formulating in my mind as wow, okay, so this is going to be Ultraman that he found while he was out there, and he somehow got control of him, and he's got him doing it. I don't know how, but whatever. But then they tell me that he cloned him, which is almost like a Bizarro thing. Now, I watched Kevin Smith's little description of the movie that he put out a little while ago, and he mentioned that the cubes and things that are part of the proton river that are going into the black hole seemingly are hinting at the idea that Ultraman is going to be Bizarro, and that would kind of make all the things come to fruition. It would be a clone that Lex created and called Ultraman, but then because he's a clone, he's imperfect, he is actually Bizarro, even though he's not calling him that now. And then when he goes into this proton river with the cubes and all, and it's sort of a hint that, or it's just a little comic book Easter egg that they put in there, because Bizarro is oftentimes portrayed as a clone of Superman, and he's imperfect. He's from a world that's a cube, so all these little cubes in the proton river. Or they might be bringing him back. I don't think he killed Bizarro, and I don't think that he had any thought that he was killing Bizarro. During the scene when he and Krypto and the baby are all getting pulled toward the black hole, he says, Krypto, you got to save the baby. We're going to get pulled into the black hole. We're never going to get out of there. He doesn't say it will kill us. And he's in the proton river for 10 minutes out of this movie, and he's getting pulled toward the black hole. And when they go in the black hole, they're just stuck in there, and he uses his super breath to get them all out. Very awesome moment. They play the old John Williams theme in their way, which, again, the soundtrack to this movie is fantastic. I love the new stuff they came up with, and I love how they intertwined it with the old stuff, and I love how they present the old stuff in their way. It's again, it gets you emotional watching it. Soundtracks often do that with movies. Sometimes it's a cheap way to get somebody to feel a certain thing, but in this it works, and it works in all the ways that you would want it to, and they put it correctly and in the right spots and where you would want it to be. So my thoughts there were, he knew that he could trap Ultraman in this broken black hole through the proton river system that was tearing open the fabric of Metropolis, and eventually would have torn open the world if Superman didn't find out a way to stop it, which he does. with the help of Mr. Terrific and a code that Lex Luthor had that he was going to use to stop it when he was ready. But I don't think that he had any intention of killing him, and I don't think that he thought he was killing him. There is the death of the Kaiju. He's upset about it. He's bothered by it. It was mentioned that he should have berated them for doing it that way. He does a little bit, and then it's kind of over with. And even veterinarians who love animals will sort of guide you toward euthanizing. He says, we could have euthanized it in a much more humane way that didn't hurt so much or whatever. Normally you would say, well, Superman wouldn't even suggest that, but I mean, now he's exasperated because they blow it up and it dies, and he would have rather that they not did that. And he's upset with them, and it's clearly not the way he would have done it, and they call him weak and a wussy and all that stuff, which a lot of people online say a lot of times, because Superman always looks for the caring way out, always looks to help. And this Kaiju wasn't evil. It was just released on Metropolis, and it probably didn't even understand where it was. It was afraid, and it was giant. But it died. And then there's the other thing where Hawkgirl drops the president of Baravia. I'm not Superman, she says, and drops him because he makes a snide comment that he knows she's weak and wouldn't be able to do the hard things, so she's not going to drop him because she's like Superman. And she says, I'm not like Superman, and throws him down. It's kind of a cool moment for her, but it is murdering the dictator, or murdering the guy who rules that country, which a lot of this movie is about the political ramifications of somebody like Superman doing what he does, which is helping people in a war situation and saving their lives. She goes in there and kills this guy, which I don't know if anybody knows that she did. I don't know if Superman even knows that she did, because they kind of over there doing what they do when it happens. And I don't know, so far, it wasn't reported that he was killed or that he was stopped even. That was just something that we see happen. So I don't know that much about Hawkgirl in terms of what she does in the comics, but I know they're a war-torn place a lot of times. Thanagar, I think it is. Killing someone is probably not that out of the question for her or other heroes, and so she does that. And of course, Superman wouldn't be for it, but I don't know that he knows about it. And I don't know that they're going to take the time to have them show us that he knows and that he goes then and yells at them for it. Or he could. Overall, A+, man. My favorite time in a Superman movie situation. I loved when Man of Steel came out. I was excited. I was happy. I was thrilled. And I enjoyed it for what it was. And I tried to sort of defend it as best I could, because there were things in there that I would have rather there not been. Almost any time you see a movie, you're going to see things like that. But I love this. This is fantastic. I think you'll love it too. It's emotional. It's you get a lot of feels from it. Sure, Crypto is great. There's a lot of laughs too. It's just, it has everything that you would want. And Superman is the most stand-up guy ever. And he wants to help everyone. And there's just so much great things to see. And I think that you should, if you haven't, you should go out and check it out, because it is fantastic. And one more word before I go. They gotta stop making all this merchandise, because it's killing my wallet. Thanks everybody for watching, and always look up in the sky.